Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where we have Seahawks Week 8, 31-10 tape, takeaways, and actual tape. Obviously, we're going to look mainly at the run defense. I happened to tweet about run defense alignments being a problem, just as Mike Macdonald said it wasn't a problem. So we'll see. Why I had that opinion. We'll see why Mike Macdonald thinks it isn't a problem when we load all this bad boy up. Chat, thank you so much. Good to see some returning names. Good to see some names we haven't seen in a while. And good to see, I think we've got a few new names as well. So that is lovely. I hope you had a good Halloween. Griff, here, before the pod, the preamble section, here, Griff, it's the Festival of Light. It's Diwali. And we live in a community where there's quite a few people who celebrate Diwali. And it's crazy. Like on the bus home today, there's people just in a random, parking lot, as you guys would say, just firing fireworks.
Love it.
Yep.
Festival of Lights, baby.
Yep.
We have Diwali celebrators here as well. It's fun. It's fun. Local downtown Bellevue does some stuff there.
Why don't we, for Christmas, why don't we have something more than just giving presents?
I mean, we have
why
Christmas
isn't there
lights. We don't really...
but Christmas lights? Can we not have Christmas fireworks?
Some areas do parades, but you're right. We don't really do fireworks, do we?
Fireworks kind of are terrifying, though.
I think America gets its firework fill. Excuse me, from New Year's Eve, which is only a few days after, and the 4th of July.
Whereas on Tuesday, of course, there will be political fireworks, right? In the United Kingdom, because it's November 5th, which is Guy Fawkes.
Nice pivot there, Matty.
I know. I'm going to tweet it as well. I've got it all workshopped out. Going to phrase it right. Maybe get 10 likes.
No, sure, it'll be great. I'll retweet it. In the first half, you had me. I'm not going to lie.
Very good. And the good news about DK Metcalf not playing is I can retweet my Scarface tweet of DK Metcalf and his agent watching this game and them just printing money. Yeah, so
there's always
social media plans. It's all it's great, brilliant, love it.
Plans within plans. You don't get that reference, do you?
No, I do.
Did you actually watch a movie for once? Is that what happened? Have you taken part in the modern zeitgeist?
I might have done.
Did you partake further and watch a certain movie the other night?
No, I didn't watch that film.
You should really watch this movie called Children of Men.
I thought Plans Within Plans was June, right?
Yeah, it is Dune.
Oh, right. Okay, good. I thought I was being confused. All right. Should we... It's going to... chat, by the way, it's going to be a long podcast.
How did Halloween go?
It went.
Were you festive?
I went out for it.
Nice. Was it spooky?
I had Vietnamese pho.
Nice. That's really good. Fun.
Yeah, it was really good. It was fire. And then I went home and went to bed early. Actually, That's not true. I was going to go to bed early. I watched Aaron Rodgers and the catch, which wasn't a catch, but was a catch.
No, I'm in favor of the whole shin thing counting.
Yeah, you're a shinner.
Because two components of your body were in. It's in the spirit of two separate feet. Although I do believe that 1 foot twice should count.
I do not. That's for someone who prefers defense like me, that is not okay. Because what could happen is the guy could just keep sort of tapping his foot while the other foot is clearly out of bounds.
Okay, you're right. That could be
you could get some very weird.
No, I hear you on that.
Plays.
You just convinced me, yeah. But I feel like the shin makes sense.
Yeah, I get that.
Makes sense. A knee.
My issue with the shin is, well, that was such a unique situation, right? Where he's standing and then starts to fall and the toe hits and then that makes the shin hit.
Right.
But
was a real shitty situation for the
My issue with the shin is it's not a point, right? Like it's not like a knee. A knee is really pointy. A shin is just a flat thing, and it's not as pointy as the toe.
What is a hip or the gluteus maximus?
Hips are pointy and bony.
Can be.
Kind of. Depends how wide your hips are.
Yeah. But what about a cheek? A cheek counts, one cheek.
And cheeks aren't pointy. Cheeks aren't, bit of,
They've got. Well, I mean, they're a broad surface.
Speak for yourself.
I mean, you called them pointy. You speak for yourself.
I've got pointy cheeks.
What kind of cheeks are over in Britain?
No, let's not make this a whole.
Matty, what's your favorite ship crew term? Bosun, first mate, coxswain, captain, quartermaster,
just
navigator. That's not no. That's not a term. Coxswain. I mean, come on. What's your favorite one?
Captain.
I feel like both. Yeah, but see, then everyone's gunning for your neck all the time.
You said term. You didn't say role. Like you asked me what I'd want to do on the ship.
I guess it's kind of. I like the bosuns.
Don't they have to run away? See, there's gonna guilty. I don't know about.
They're like an NCO.
But then they have to get out of the weather sail all the time.
I mean, I imagine everyone has to get away.
Yeah, that would suck. Honestly, I'd be so bad at that. I'd 100% be the man overboard.
Oh, dude, same. I'd be a Jonah for sure. I would be cursed.
Tragic. Absolutely tragic.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm all preambled out. So
Ben, we did that. Everyone missed it. Griff went on about it way more than we actually spoke about the film, but I did really enjoy it. It was good. Yeah,
Matty was a good boy and did his homework and watched Master and Commander. He just needs to watch Children of Men now.
Oh, Jen, very good question. Is that an action green headset, Griff? I'm going to say no.
Kind of. Would I rather be in a Napoleonic era ship or a Pacific War ship? I feel like the death rate in the Napoleonic era ship is much lower just because fewer people died in general, but then at the same time, you're more likely to get a disease in the early 1800s than you are.
Yeah.
Well, I wonder though, actually, if the death rate of people on like in the actual Navy serving on the actual ships, not just being ferried around during the Pacific War. Matty, have you watched Band of Brothers in the Pacific?
I've watched Band of Brothers. I don't know if I ever finished the Pacific. I tried reading the book of the Pacific, and it was not as good. I mean, it's fine, but it wasn't as good as Band of Brothers.
I had the same vibe watching both series are equally well executed, I think. But Band of Brothers can kind of lean into the, not that you should ever glorify war, but there's some kind of like an undercurrent of I don't know what the right word is, romance to it.
Yeah.
Camaraderie, some like romance to it. But the Pacific is just pure like no redeeming quality, war as hell.
Yeah, I think that was what I found tough about that. And even the show, like I think that's why I stopped watching, because I was like, this is this is grim.
And I'm sure Band of Brothers probably overemphasizes the feel good aspects as well, because war is hell over there too.
Yeah, 100%.
Anyway, hit it, Matty.
Yeah, I've got another time we can talk about some French, some stories about the French when they've been liberated. But yeah, right. Okay,
no, that sounds interesting.
No, that's a preamble tease. Welcome to the Seattle Overload podcast, where Griff and I are back to recap and review the Seahawks tape from their 31-10 Week 8 loss at home to the Buffalo Bills. This is a hot topic right now, the Seahawks run defense, and Mike Macdonald spoke about it in some detail in each of his press conferences and media appearances on the radio. We have a lot of that to look at, where Griff and I think, disagree with Mike Macdonald. So Mike Macdonald obviously knows a lot more about football. Well, maybe not. we'll dive into that. But first, Griff, how did you think the offense did? Because points-wise, moving the ball-wise, just raw numbers-wise, it was rough. But lasting impression from tape, was it, as grim?
For the offense?
Yeah.
I'm really dissatisfied with what's going on offense right now, even with DK out. This offense can't get explosive. I mean, even with DK, like DK is getting more explosives, especially as the season has gone on. But even with them on the field, like they're like, what are they, bottom 10 still in explosive rate? And I don't think that Grubb did a great job of being able to attack the Bills' structure and getting guys open in space. He had very static route concepts. And sometimes when you can identify, when there's a lot of spot drop, it's okay to just run a curl into the open space, right? Because it's in theory, it can be easy access throws, but I mean, good spot dropping though can erase that. And the Bills were constantly dropping to where they knew the routes were going, and they were taking away those windows. I didn't see an ability to really twist them into knots, so that he didn't really make it difficult on them. The pre-snap shifting in motion only goes so far in trying to get the matchups you want. He's not really conflicting defenders. That's what's starting to become alarming for me. You should be able to move the ball with JSN and Tyler Lockett. You should. So it's frustrating. The O-line is still bad. Mike Gerald kind of had a rough game after kind of showing some life against Atlanta, right? But it's only his second game, right? So all in all, like I don't like it. I don't like it, man. And I would like to see it improve. It improved week 10 last year, but it went from like a mildly above average offense to a borderline elite one. Right now they're below average on offense. So just mildly below average. So I don't know how far they can improve, but hopefully they click. And I don't see them clicking. I see the opposite of that right now.
You think the offensive line was bad? Because that's interesting, because obviously if you look at the numbers, their pass protection, like the pressure percentage for Geno Smith was a pretty big improvement. SIS has it at 31.3%, which actually that's not as good as I thought. I thought coming out of the game it was charted as better by other companies. Yeah, I guess 31.3% isn't great. That being said, that was if you look at the NFL and guys who actually had attempts, that was still that was 23rd.
Well,
best.
we did see more 6 and 7 man protection,
right?
More chip help, rather like 6.5 protection.
That's something I felt. I mean, we said it in the post game presser. That was good from Grubb. I feel I don't disagree with like your critiques. I feel he is trying to do a few more things to help out the offensive line, like the tight end coming into the backfield for like a split backfield look. To get that 7-man protection stuff going. He's trying to, blend in pistol formation and become a bit more like formationally diverse. Monjombo saying the Bills never really blitzed, which helped. Yeah, that did help. The Bills were just a very sound defense to me, and Grubb was kind of unable to quit plays, which is something we've seen before, but they're removing your 989, which is nestling into curls. Why are you calling that, or a very similar variant, back-to-back plays? Like, move on. That point you made about conflicting guys, defenders, is just not happening. And I was quite surprised we didn't get routes which wrapped over the middle. Like,
right,
we saw that last week.
Right.
Where did that go? What was the reason for suddenly going away with that? Like, yes, they're spot dropping, but you can move those windows a bit more creatively and stack the hook, just none of that. Now, it also doesn't help that they had very few plays really, and again, we're looking at for not the first time, but we're looking at a small sample size. I think, other than those comments, Griff, what was disappointing to me was the run game. The combo block play is still really sloppy, and the details just the understanding between the two guys is off. And Grubb said that they need to gel up front a little bit, and he also said that they'd been messing up the points. So who the offensive line is double teaming towards, like who is the designated Mike defender for them to execute their combo blocks at. So
it was good to
that's
hear
all
him
frustrating.
say that
It's good to hear him say it. Like, it's obvious, but it's good to hear him acknowledge that and say it, and also know like a reason for other than just like bad players, which I don't think these guys are that bad at run blocking per se. Like, they can definitely be better.
Well, because they've had good games blocking good fronts. They've been very up and down, and it definitely seems like it's sourced to a cohesion thing as run blocking goes. There's not a whole lot you can do about pass blocking.
No. But I despair that that's happening in week 8 of an NFL season. Grubb also spoke, Griff, about stripping things back a bit, as Macdonald's echoed on the defensive side of the ball, but kind of working out what they're good at and hitting those things. To me, that's not the issue. It's kind of scary. Like, I if anything, they need a bit more formational diversity, and just to get good at some run game stuff. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like the reason why they're not as dynamic and empty, like they're now respectable and empty after starting the year off bad. But one reasons why I think empty, well, maybe the main reason that they're not as dynamic and empty is because they're too simple and empty. I still think they're really predictable. The only thing they have going for themselves is when they present their vertical concept indicators to the offense, to the defense, they counter with quick game, because the quick game is easy access. It's there. It's free money. So they take it. And that's really the only thing working for them. Their regular, like their weak side choice doesn't really have anything to progress to. Like, he's turned weak side choice into a half field pre-snap decision. And I hate that.
There was so much half field stuff in this game. It was like sometimes the passing concepts were like Geno wasn't the quarterback, or like he'd given up on the pass pro. It was very odd.
It felt like this is what you would do for Howell if Howell came in on the bench. And Geno can handle 5 out, 3x2 full field progression passing. He did it all last year with an equally bad O-line. I mean, really, like, for me, it's like the more you give Geno, the more you place on Geno's brain to figure out stuff, the better chance your offense has right now, because that means it can be your structure versus their structure, and he'll find the weak spot. That's why Geno was so good in empty last year. I mean, like, how many times did he hit something on the backside of empty last year for a big chunk game? I mean, I clipped all of them. He's got like 10 to 15 completions, hitting either a backside dig or like a deep over from the weak side number 3 or the backside number 3. And it's like, if the quick out is there on the front side of the play, or the stick or whatever on the front side of the play, he'll hit that too. So you still have that option. So I don't like how simplified empty has become. In fact, I'll just say, like, I hate it. I hate it. It's you're just making something that was cool worse. It's like you took your car into the shop and you made all these modifications and you showed your friends. They're like, dude, that kind of sucks. What would you do to it? Yeah. That's how I feel watching empty right now. Again, like, it still drives fast. You can still do some cool things with it. It's just not as cool looking.
That sounds very like you've had personal experience with this.
No, I don't know where I see. I always
You've been playing Need for Speed.
No, I always use these metaphors. I don't know where I'm going with
I
them.
love Need for Speed. That was such a cool game. Then
that was a fun game. Forza had a comeback.
Yep.
GTA Racing is good too. Anyway,
I've never heard that one.
Grand Theft Auto?
Do you mean Gran Turismo?
Just regular Grand Theft Auto. You've heard of GTA
Racing.
Well, like, you can race and customize your cars and stuff.
No, that sucks. I'm out on that.
Yeah,
sucks.
a lot of people play GTA just for like the online racing.
Yeah, that's weird. That's weird. If you're that person, turn off the podcast. I don't want you listening.
Interesting. Anyway, so and then in under center, I mean they're a bad play action team, man. That is so bizarre. Ryan Grubb used play action to good effect at UW and at Fresno State. Gino has always been good at play action, even in 2021. What is going on?
And it's such an important part in the NFL of like, it's a relatively low risk bucket of plays. And it's, there's a reason that every team in the league tries to get as good at it as possible, because it is, when it's popping, it's very hard to defend. And it's kind of an easy pass for the quarterback as well. So
right. you talk about it. Go ahead.
No, I just think, we're repeating ourselves on the offense because it feels so similar week to week. But the real problem for them is they don't have an under-center run game that is anything close to threatening. You look at how the Bills are playing it, and their linebackers are barely biting. They were about Terrell Bernard.
Right. And look at what the guards are doing on play action. They're going immediately to their pass block.
And I wonder, Griff, how much of that is how much they struggled trying to sell the run and getting beat in pass pro because defenders just didn't buy it. I think there's a real knock-on effects of essentially lacking an under-center run game threat / a run game threat at all. And
you wonder, could part of the reason why they're bad in under center is because they do so little of it. They just don't.
Yeah, that's why. That's exactly what I think it is. Yeah. And McDonald said on the radio, well, they want to be a predominantly shotgun team. Well, then in shotgun they need to be a bit more diverse.
Yeah,
absolutely. And they're as you. It was a long one. I think it was on Sunday. It was kind of deep into the podcast, but you mentioned how Chip Kelly was able to live in so much shotgun because of how diverse he is. And I think a casual listener or someone who just tuned into the podcast without really knowing us would be like, Chip Kelly, what are you talking about? But if you look at how much Chip can do out the gun and how much he spends in the gun, especially his peak stuff, there's a reason it was effective. I don't know. This is I don't know about the offense. I really don't know. We had a question from we did have Jen saying who gets fired first, Scott Huff or Jay Harbaugh. Huff might be in danger. I don't think Jay Harbaugh would be, but the way it's going on the offense right now, Grubb could be under threat. Of course, they might also. Who's the guy throwing the football? They might be like, hey, let's get a different quarterback. We do not think that's the problem. But the way the offense is performing, that someone's going to get blamed at this point. There's blame to go around, of course, but just from looking at it from a ownership perspective and even from a Mike Macdonald head coach perspective, something's going to have to change quite tangibly if it's like this by the end of the season still.
Trying to put myself in ownership's shoes and the way I think they view things. If they're looking at, hey, we just hired a stud coach and hired a stud coordinator,
hot shot,
right? And Gino is. I bet you ownership thinks, yeah, Gino's good, but he's probably not great. Is probably what ownership thinks. Not that I agree, but that's probably how they view it. And they look at the results of the offense right now. I would imagine their mind goes to O-line, which is where our mind goes to, right? But in the conversation is complicated because it's really everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, all right, what do we have to fix something? We gotta tell them to fix it. And it's very cut and dry ones and zeros for them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would look at the O-line and then who is responsible for the O-line. Ultimately, that would be Schneider. So I think they would be asking Schneider, we remember your comments on 710 about guard play, and you have the worst guard pairing in the league. So, what's going on there? So do they first say our directive is improve the guards and then we'll evaluate you, or is it just we want somebody else? I don't know. I think if they don't like Geno, it doesn't really have anything to do with the results of this season. I just think they wonder about investing money in a guy at his age. And I think they view him separately. Like, honestly, I don't think there's anything Geno could do this year, good or bad, that would make them come off their position. I think they view it in very strict business terms. I think Schneider would be fine with paying Geno like 40, 42, 43 million a year. I think is probably what John wants to do, but Geno should ask for 45 a year, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
That's what he deserves.
We'll see. It's tough right now. One guy who got praised by Ryan Grubb was Anthony Bradford. Seems like he's kind of won that battle between him and Christian Haynes, which we said before the season would be disappointing from a kind of Haynes draft pick perspective if that happened. But Grubb praised his improvement, finishing harder and playing with better pad level. And I mean, there's the one play which is just more like a chemistry issue between Bradford and Williams, like the kind of goal line carry where the 3-tech just knifes, like just is allowed like a clean path to the running back. Mm-hmm. But other than that, Bradford didn't look awful. So that's cool. Good positive. Just Mike Jarrell struggled a bit more.
Yeah.
And I think actually, like, he was surviving in the first game, but having watched the 49ers stuff back, it wasn't like, whoa. I mean, it was a tough matchup for him as well, don't get me wrong. But, yeah. Anyway. Anything else on the offense, Griff?
I don't think so.
No. It's, I think they're on the right track. I really do. I'm just, in terms of, they're trying to mix things in more.
I mean,
they just need to get out of their own way and keep doing a bit more diverse things and find a way to run the ball more. And the problem is, because they're playing catch up in these areas, the tendency stuff is gonna. I mean, I felt the Bills were dialed into some of the tendencies.
I agreed with you that they were on the right track. I really felt that way after the 49ers game and for the most part after the Falcons game, but this game kind of took the wind out of my sails.
Oh, dear.
I mean, I really thought the game plan just was bad. Blah. Also, another note is that the pass rate the last 3 games, when they've talked about wanting to run more, is like below 45%. And that's not what Grubb wants to be, man. Like you said, catch up. So are they just trying to balance their numbers out like season long so that defenses scout them differently? I don't know, but I don't know. It's strange. It's strange. What we do know, what I find interesting is that there's no talks about how Macdonald is meddling with the offense. Macdonald isn't letting Grubb do what he wants. I find that interesting.
And
which
so
it's good. It's good because that's the right take. Like, it's just a head coach and an OC working together. But anyway.
And so does Brady or Ali?
That was Ali.
Miles. Yeah. Okay, Ali. Yeah. Yeah, that is. I guess. I mean, Macdonald will get a reputation. The more he talks about running the ball and the importance of running the football, the more he'll get a reputation for meddling. But yeah. It's so frustrating just watching the offense because it feels it's been at least 2 years. Chat, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but when was the last time the Seahawks had a great run game? Rashad Penny being like incredibly efficient and just housing zone runs off the backside of like Jake Kerhan washing down a 3-tech or even a 6-tech. Of 6-tech? 5-tech. When was the last time they had a great run game, Griff?
2021.
Kind of.
The first half of 2023 they were okay. Their gun run game was good. The first half of 2022, I mean, really all of 2022, their gun run game was pretty good. It was,
and I'm
under
a bit
center.
Concerned. Like, Walker's always going to have this element to him, but I'm slightly afraid that he is losing faith in, like, hey, let's just, press this block and then cut inside. Like, it's more he feels he has to be the guy who's creating. And to be fair, I don't really blame him. And he, like, all of his big plays really have been him doing that. But I'm slightly concerned about that. A bit like how a quarterback can lose faith in their pass protection after a while, and starts dipping their eyes. And Geno had that almost pick from Geno was horrid. Like, I don't know what the hell he was. Well, I do know what he was trying to do, really, but he was late, and he did. There was no reason to throw that, and his pass pro was like workable to fulfill that and get it to Lockett, who was open. I don't know why he did that. Was a worrying sign in terms of. I don't want to overreact, but that was like, whoa, Geno, why? What? That was like the first real bad play I've seen from him. Mm-hmm. So, hopefully that's not a lasting issue. Right, Griff. Offense is boring you. Let's go to the defense. And specifically, well, it depends how long we've got, but we'll talk run defense. So, chat, the run defense is struggling. It's in some ways similar to previous issues. Griff, do you want to dive right into the tape, or I don't know how best to frame this?
Let's get into the tape, and then we can kind of zoom out as we go.
Okay. So first things first, I think what was disappointing to me about this game is that the edge play was very similarly struggling against the run in a way that they did down in Atlanta. And for that to be the case is a bit because, what are you coaching from the Atlanta tape, and how are you, improving, or are you just going to let that be the issue for the whole time? And Mike Macdonald, like, immediately in his, I think it was his radio appearance, he spoke about the edge players being the biggest issue in the run game. And I think I would partially agree with that statement. I think all the biggest runs, Griff, came from that. So let me just bring up the tape. But, yeah. Well, I mean, what did do you have anything to add on that while I load this?
The edges, I think it's a matter of the deliberate choices they're making relative, like within the framework of like what front they're in, what call they're in relative to the specific blocking scheme they get. And like what the running back is doing. It's not as, because when we talk about this stuff, we kind of like everyone, all of us, the entire football world, it kind of reduces it down to this binary of, is it scheme or execution? And while it's technically an execution issue, I think it's the way that they're game planning how to play the techniques within the play call, and how the coaches are dialoguing with them throughout the week and what they're emphasizing. So like what I'm saying here is, like, the D-line is getting, like, at times on the front side of a zone play, they're getting the wrong kind of penetration. Like if they're getting the kind of penetration that would make sense for another run, like for inside zone, not wide zone, or for duo, but they're taking themselves out of the play. And it's not because they can't physically handle the block, because they're controlling the block the whole way through on a lot of it. But so, like, that's where I'm saying, like, it's a deliberate choice to play the block that way. And that's where I wonder, like, what is going on between the coaches and the players, among the coaches and among the players, and the relationship between both of them. And then on the backside of stuff, if you're the backside player, the backside force player, the backside edge of a zone run, you're just getting too far upfield. How can you possibly squeeze down on the cutback? You can't. So it's just weird stuff. And I don't think it's necessarily an ability or a focus issue. I think it's these just lack of understanding what's really happening and what's the best way to play it. Like, again, deliberate choices. And as far as the edge play stuff goes, I think it's fixable, like really fixable. but it's still a really weird. It's like another new problem now.
Yeah, it isn't. It wasn't a problem at the start of the season, and I kind of marveled, like you're talking about the backside of plays. I marveled at how the backside Ed was able to play into the C and play the run, or if it was a boot, pop out and pressure the bootleg and get the quarterback on like the naked keeper, but or even semi-naked. But anyway, now it's a problem, so they kind of need to correct it. So here's the first example of what we're going to sort of see of what we've been talking about here. So pretty good knockback on the front side. Murphy, who had a really difficult game, kind of just getting comboed. And this run cuts back on 2nd and 2 for easily a first down and a kind of chunk yardage where they're playing cover 4 this side and cover 2 this side. So they're in a tough spot. Although they're keeping the backers away from this. So they're kind of trying to play it with gapped out.
Which is, we typically associate being gapped out with 1 high. So even though they're in 2 high, they're fudging the numbers to where it's as though it's 1 high. Right. So as that 89, as he motions, even though he's running a wheel, he doesn't get set. He's forming a slot formation. And when that happens, usually the near side underneath defender is going to quote unquote walk out and form an overhang or an apex or become a slot defender. In this case, he doesn't. He stays in the run fit so that they can go hat for hat in the box. Every gap that gets formed by the offense, the defense can match with the defender. And then you are thus gapped out.
Right. Which is interesting. And Mike Macdonald said about the run defense, he kind of overshared, I felt. Like there was no need for him to do it, but he said on Ernest Jones, when asked how he acclimatized to the Seahawks Week 8 run fits, he said, "We'll fit some things a little bit differently now that Ernest kind of knows how we play stuff." Which I don't know if this was a thing to accommodate Ernest and like simplify things by giving him some help here. Mm-hmm. It could be one of those things, or it could be Seattle saying, "Hey, look, we've really struggled fitting the run when we've got 2 deep safeties. Let's just let that guy run free almost." Or, typically, guys, you'd play this so you can get 3 over the 2. But they weren't doing that this game. And this is something McVay, if they don't bump out like this is something McVay and against 2 high will find ways to break. So very interested to see that play out. Anyway, we're talking about Draymond Jones here, which Misfit says Draymond Jones overruns this play, doesn't he? Well, it's not really overrunning the play so much as if we draw up the gaps here. Now, sometimes working out who has what gap with this Seahawks team is a bit difficult. But if you pause it at this moment...
well, he is getting reached.
What, Draymond?
I think...
he gets reached here. That's a really good block from Kincaid. Is that Kincaid?
I think misfit means he overruns the play, but he gets too deep into the backfield. And that's part of why he gets reached by the tight end. He's not able to squeeze down, stay inside the tight end, inside the C gap. Because Jones should be squeezing down the play and tackling him. Yeah. Right off the hip of the right guard or the right tackle.
Guys, if we zoom it out to this level here, if we're saying that everyone has like a primary type of gap, Draymond should be here, Spoon should be inside this block here, and then the corner can play here after clearing the pass because he's a deep quarter player. But if you watch, Draymond ends up in the same gap as Spoon, I think. Oh, no. Yeah, well, Draymond needs to be here because he's basically in the same gap as the corner, which was the same issue with Atlanta where teams would run zone, like weak zone, so away from the tight end, and it would cut back off, they'd get good front side looks here, but they'd wash the nose, which happens here too, and then there's just a massive crease where this guy ends up in the same gap as the corner. And if you watch where this hits, if you think it's inside of the tight end is where we want Draymond Jones, it hits kind of, again, this big wash going on, but, they're in the same gap. And again, this is Draymond almost playing for the boot, like so far upfield and playing a completely different style to how Murphy's playing. Mm-hmm. So, Ben, I don't think Spoon is saying that. I think it's more Spoon beating this block inside because he knows the corner's outside. So Spoon needs to be inside a crack back here. And also,
what I hate about this, and it will show up later, is that because 91 Murphy is two gapping, his primary gap is going to be the A gap, right? But because he's two gapping, Jones has to fit off of what happens to Murphy, and the chemistry between the linebackers and a two gapping defensive tackle is really bad right now. So Jones has to play the A gap or the B gap, whatever gap Murphy doesn't play. But it's really hard to tempo that out, I think.
The run hits too quick, especially from under center. And this is a really interesting choice from Macdonald. So this is what we'd call an under front. So the 3 technique is away from where the tight end is. And it's an under G front because the nose, rather than playing on the shade on the outside shoulder of the center, is playing on the inside shoulder of the tackle. And as Griff said, he's kind of two-gapping this. And why would you do that? Well, they have a 3-man surface over here. So there's 1, 2, 3. It's actually, it depends how it's like a 5-man surface. But the reason is you are basically saying this guy can't pull. If he pulls, we're just going to run through. You're also keeping the nickel to the strong side clean. You're asking less of him. Macdonald, though, in the past against under center looks, has kept this guy in the shade when they're played under. So it's really weird that through this game he wanted to play with a G. And I know, don't ask me how, but I know for a fact he was calling this front under G. So it's clearly like a game plan thing. I'd have to watch more of the Bills. I'd imagine it was for like duo, like to try and keep this backer clean to flow.
Well, also, if it's outside zone, so strong side zone, it would be hard for the center to reach him. And so then the 2-eye would keep Jones relatively free.
Right, but then it just cuts back. Anyway, yeah.
No, I agree. I agree with you.
It was unusual. Right, so let's get to another clip of like the backside edge kind of struggling. I think this is the very next play. Because that was a holding penalty on... we should have said that. But I think Spoon draws a holding penalty, which... It didn't really... I guess it kind of impacts the play. But good job from Spoon showing up. Who, by the way, is still playing... I'll try and tweet out some clips after this episode, but he's still playing some pretty good stuff, to be fair. And Leonard Williams is still amazing, by the way. But anyway, that will get
Leonard
lost.
Is playing really good football.
Right, so very similar issue here. This time it's Derek Hall. So this is base now. It's again like an under G front. So here's our 3 technique. Here's our 2-eye nose. Here's our, I think he's playing 6. They're up against a big 13 personnel look. So that's not a tight end. That's a 6th offensive lineman. But you can see how that's slightly 3 tight ends. There's your running back. There's your receiver. And Derek Hall ends up in the same gap as Spoon. And look where the run hits. Inside of Derek Hall, where Spoon can get to, but late. And so, again, it's like you're playing down a gap, basically, because you're ending up with 2 guys in the same gap.
Right.
Which is what Macdonald meant about edge play. Like, there's no need for Hall to go outside here. Whoa, that was a loud noise.
Yep, sorry about that. And he's worried about the boot from Josh Allen, right? But I feel like Witherspoon could be he has a coverage responsibility. Never mind.
Yeah, but there's an emphasis on clearly playing the boot when you
well, I guess they're worried about a naked keeper, right?
Yeah.
But that just seems so like, if you get a naked keeper from Allen, fine. Like, just read the blocks. Like, he's trying to block you for real. So just.
Yeah. Something we'll talk about later, but just it's kind of popping up here, and I wonder is if there's primary gaps and secondary gaps. So you would presume Hall's primary gap would be here, where the run hits, and then his secondary would be out here. Just like Ernest Jones, his primary gap, let me do that like this. His primary gap is here, but then his secondary gap is like falling back here, you would presume. So I wonder if Hall knocks back the tight end here with his hat here and thinks the run is going to cut back here and then tries to get to his secondary too soon. I think Jones is coming back here. I think that's part of what's going on and going wrong with the defense. And I think when you're playing like this, and we'll probably recover this point, but it requires everyone to be playing kind of, even more so, everyone to be playing together and also having a chemistry and understanding of one another. And it can go wrong very quickly as Hall, rather than just owning his gap to the inside, pops out and then there's no one's come here in time. And, you get a big run. All right.
Righto.
So this is first and 10. This is not the play to show for this. This is not the play to show for this. Let's skip that one.
For the double rotation.
No. This is still edge issues.
Oh.
So this is a 3rd and 2. This is a frustrating one.
Yeah, man, I don't understand, because he's two gapping on the tight end.
Yeah. So, guys, right now we have the defense in cover 2 over here, cover 4 over here. So 2, 4, and we have a slot formation, right? So there's the slot. We have a nub tight end, so there's no one out here. So this corner's number 1 receiver, who he's primarily responsible for, is the tight end. So how teams have done it in cover 2 is the corner can be the force, or just be the outside run defender, and then we can work this guy into the C gap, and the ball gets spilled out, and the corner makes the tackle unblocked. Hall just plays this like he's knocking back the guy, and then he kind of gets like owned again. Like the tight end puts Hall where he wants, and there is no one for the C gap because the corner's playing outside in. You could bring the safety down more aggressively into the C gap. But once more, this is a case of the end ending up in the same gap as the corner.
Yeah. It's like he's so worried about getting knocked back that he just loses leverage. He gets slingshotted forward.
And it's no bueno.
Man, yeah.
So
also, I'm not super fond of how Woolen squeezes anyway.
Well, like so wide.
Yeah, I feel like he needs to get a little. He needs to be closer off of the tight end's hip, I think. Because if Hall spills that, then I think Woolen's forced himself into a position of being on an island a little bit.
Yeah, if Hall goes here, it probably goes here, right? Like there's too much distance between Woolen and Hall.
Row spaghetti-o.
So I see why Macdonald felt edge play was an issue. Like they weren't getting presumably the right execution, as we've just seen on these plays. If we go to 2nd and 6, this is going to be Roberts and Harris ending up. Oh no, it's not. Play before. 1st and 10. So this went for 4 yards. But again, where's the C gap? Running back zone, and then it cuts back, and Job makes a good tackle.
Yeah.
But Roberts and Harris ends up. There's no C gap defense.
I just don't understand. Like, what are they trying to do? It feels like it was emphasized to them, right? Like this is a deliberate choice. You almost wonder, are the Bills tight ends coached this way to kind of invite?
They were kicking butt.
Because it's like they almost let themselves get knocked back.
And then turn to seal them out.
Right, and let them use the momentum of the edge against them.
Yeah.
You know, like it's very interesting. It makes me want to watch more Bills run game and see if they do that.
They've been running the ball pretty well, to be fair, and I know they got the Jets pretty bad and stuff like this too.
And then unfortunately, there's pretty good wash on Jaron Reed there too.
Yeah, this is not the best rep from Reed. The Bills kick butt in just their double teams. Like the contrast between the Bills O-line and what they're able to do, like double team wise, compared to the Seahawks O-line, it's just like, okay, yeah, that's what a good run blocking offensive line looks like. Right, so that's the edge stuff. Now let's get to the big topic. So Mike Macdonald was asked in his press conference today about run alignments. He was asked, are the second level alignments an issue? And as you can see from the thumbnail that we have, he said, I don't think so. Maybe in weeks 1 to 4, but he doesn't think the run alignments are an issue right now. So in his mind, the Seahawks players are executing the scheme as is designed. Griff, what are your thoughts on Macdonald's response to that?
I don't think he's going to come out and say that the alignments are an issue. Well, so what we can confirm is that means guys aren't getting like lined up wrong. Like they're understanding their call. And I don't think we thought that was an issue this game.
No.
Definitely looked like it had been in the past.
Tiny bit, but not in the run game.
Okay. Not in the run game.
I saw some busts, but not run game stuff. More pressure, like not having the drop to the right side.
Well, what that means then is like, I mean, it's a very loaded question. I don't think I believe that he was answering the question in terms of, and it was a good question. He's answering the question in terms of, are my guys not doing what they're supposed to be doing? I don't think he thinks the theory of the play call is being challenged there. And that's kind of like what we're tacitly doing here, is challenging the theory of the play call. But I believe, and I think we believe, that he understands the way he's setting the front and how he's aligning the second level can be disadvantageous, but it's in service of a grander strategy. And he's trying to make that balance work. Right now, we can say it's not working because of the results are so bad.
Right.
And a lot of the results are due to, well, guys are out leveraged off the snap. Like it's hard to play those things. It's all about like, who do you take pressure off and then who do you then place it on? My question is, when you have a guy misaligned, I think his release valve is by having one guy 2-gap or kind of quasi 2-gap, like that primary secondary stuff, but really heavy to the secondary, so that the ball can kind of get spilled to that guy. And like, it can almost work like a gap exchange so that they trade gaps so that that guy's alignment is no longer a problem. But then the problem with that then is, well, if you're gapped out, you're in one high run defense. You're now defanging, you're undercutting your defensive lineman's ability to play aggressively, and they end up yielding ground. So on some runs that should have gone for 0, they go for 3. The ones that should go for 3 go for 6. And then sometimes you just straight up give up an explosive because the angles are so bad.
Right. You are, in essence, wasting the so-called advantage of having that extra guy in the box.
Right.
Now, there's some positives to it too, so I think we'll try and frame it in those terms. But there's a concept we'll talk about in terms of double rotation, which we'll get to. But also before that, the top run defenses in the league would probably disagree with some of what's going on here. But the top run defenses in the league aren't always the top pass defenses. Sometimes they are, but not always. But like, this is not how a system we're more familiar with, and we're still learning Mike Macdonald's system. But this is not how the Robert Saleh, RIP, how they would do it. It's not how Pete Carroll would do it. It's not how like Tomlin and all the Dungy defenses would do it. Because no,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. Tom
I was just going to say, like, when we talk about Carroll defenses seeding around the league and stuff, I mean, Carroll's influence in the league is like vast, and it's not just him. Like the reason why like a lot of the Tomlin defenses work is because they have a common ancestor, or more like cross pollination with Monty Kiffin going back 30 years. If you were to ask Tony Dungy what his defense is, he'd say, well, it's kind of like a mishmash of Kiffin and Chuck Noll. So it's really like a third to a half of the league's defenses share very similar like DNA in terms of how they structure themselves at a granular level. I don't think Macdonald wants to change the DNA of Rex Ryan, Wink Martindale, Jim Johnson's defense. It's more about how do you supplement off of that picture? How do you pivot off of that picture?
Right. So that's a lot of stuff we've spoke about, chat, which we'll try to explain with these clips and go into some detail. Try not to get too much jargon in there. I think the way that's helped me think about this is coverage, right? So Mike Macdonald obviously cares a lot about coverage, as any defensive mind would. And there's a certain type of cover 3 he plays called cover 3 sight that was a big thing in this game. And I promise you, I'm going to take us from the coverage, right, to the run fit. And then we're going to talk about the double rotation concept, because it all matches up. Your coverage takes you to your run responsibility. That's what Mike Macdonald believes, I think. And he's kind of a coverage first guy. Like, I think if you look at the Baltimore defense last season, and just his defenses in general, but particularly that Baltimore defense where they were having second half of the season run defense struggles, and you could call it a collapse. Some of that felt like a managed decline where he knows he's giving up that certain thing, but it's at the expense of, getting really good coverage or being able to get into more run-oriented calls when required and take away that thing that the offense is able to kind of rely on and get some hard, not massive yards, but hard yards. So anyway, so cover 3 sight is what we're going to talk about first of all, which is where, well, Griff, how do you view cover 3 sight? Like what? Actually, that's unfair. Let me explain cover 3 sight. This is a mess. So here we have cover 3, right? So we have our 3 deep defenders, and we have our 4 underneath players here, right? Now, typically, this guy would be the curl to flat defender, the outside underneath defender. We'd be the hook curl, the inside underneath defender. We'd be the hook curl, the inside underneath defender. And we would be the curl flat, outside underneath defender. But everyone knows in cover 3 that if this guy runs down here, we've got to put a linebacker on him. And if that dude is a stud, oh gosh, we're in trouble. Like, we're in trouble. It's Tyrell Dodson. It's not prime Bobby Wagner. And even prime Bobby Wagner had difficulties with it. He was no Jordan Brooks doing it. Am I right? So what we can do is have a safety do it. But sometimes we might want that safety to play the outside underneath. So we can make a cover 3 sight call, meaning the safety can play this guy or this guy, depending on how the receivers distribute into the pattern. And the hook player can play this guy or this guy, depending on how the receivers distribute into the pattern. So you'll see here, Julian Love coming down, sees the back come out fast and take a step almost outside. And so he gestures to his teammate Dodson with his hand like that, saying, you're taking this side, I'm here. And so it plays out like cover 3 sky, and Josh Allen's none the wiser, and it ends up with the fumble. But what I want you to focus on is how Love is pushing his teammate Dodson over to this side. Okay.
It's pretty cool.
They've exchanged that thing. Right, now let's look at.
So it's a hook flat exchange depending on the back release.
That's a good,
essentially.
Yeah, the weak weak number
hook,
2.
The weak hook, the weak flat based off of the weak number 2. Yep.
So here again, here's the hook, here's the flat. But they've got a dangerous guy here. Do we want Dodson there or do we want Love there? What does the back do? Oh, actually, that might be 3 weak bars. I don't think that's sight.
Yeah, I think it's weak bars.
Never mind. Bad example.
Well, you're still on the right track though with the structure of it.
Let's go to an actual.
If it was 3 sight, the safety would have come down, right?
So now this is where it starts to tie into the run game. Okay. So now the offense has this guy over here. So this is like what we'd call a number 4, but if he goes this side, he's the number 2, because here's the number 1, here's the 1, here's the 2, here's the 3. So typical cover 3, this guy would be responsible for this guy. Just ignore the backfield for a second. And this guy would be coming to the outside underneath and would be in a bad matchup. But if you watch how they play this, the back is straight. He's not into this flat area. So Dodson plays the back. And we get
final 3 match from.
And we get the exchange from Love playing the fast receiver. So they've exchanged their responsibilities. Love was initially the flat defender, but because the back was straight down and it's play action and how they schemed it, Love becomes the hook. And Dodson is taking this back basically man-to-man, but to the flat if required. So how does that relate to the run game?
Because who has what gap then?
Right, so who has what gap? Well, here they're in an over front. So the 3 technique is to the tight end. Here's our edge. Here's our nose. Here's our edge. In cover 3, typically, Dodson would be like the... Oh, sorry, not cover 3. But just in this look, 1 high defense, Dodson would be the A gap. Jones would be playing off this edge. One of them would take the C, you'd hope, but we've seen they had issues with that too. And one of them would take the edge. And Love coming down in like stock, like cover 3, if they're playing 3 sky, would have the B gap here. And you could all play 1 gap. And in an overfront, Seattle is rotating that way. This guy's rotating away from the 3 technique. So he's rotating to the B gap bubble. We've got the support coming down there. So if they had run the ball, you see Love was coming downhill to play into this gap. You can see how that would work out. So when Seattle was in an overfront running this type of coverage concept, if they had ran the football, they had the guy for every single gap. But Seattle rarely ran this over front look. They actually ran in this game an under front a lot of the time. So if we go to this clip here, I believe this would have been a situation where they're wanting to keep this guy deep again, as we saw, because from depth, if this guy runs up and we get play action, I can take that back, I can play the post, I can play the running back basically man-to-man, but be the flat, and we can exchange between these two guys. But this is where Griff double rotation comes into the picture, because now we have an under front, and so, we're rotating this guy to the 3 technique.
Right. So double rotation in simplest terms means in a 4-down front anyway, or even spaced front, the 3 technique and the strong safety are on the same side of the field. So if you're loading the box now, Love is coming down, just freezing this picture, like what gap is Love supposed to have? He can't have the C gap because you already have a C gap player. Can't have the B gap because Reed's in the B gap. So the only gap that makes sense is the A gap, but look where he is. And if Love is the A gap player, then what does Dotson have? Because Dodson's aligned to the A gap. Would Dodson have to have the B then? And then at Jones, what gap does Jones have? So you're completely distorted, the whole picture. This is not suited for defending anything. So it only makes sense if you're anticipating them motioning one of the receivers across the formation, because then they would be forming a slot, and then Love would be rotating down as a slot defender and out of the fit, at least out of the core, which is what happens here. But there are issues when they don't motion and the safety is stuck there. Now, ironically, Love misses the tackle here anyway, because what happens? So Dodson remains the A-gap player. Does he just get reached?
Dodson takes it on okay, but
Dodson's fine.
Hankins has a tough rep where he's so thick, which again, like playing the A-gap, like you can still knock back.
This ties into the primary secondary stuff that Dirty was talking about. His primary gap is the A gap, his secondary is the B gap. Why does he work to a secondary late and then work front side again? Right there. Why is he peeking?
Why is he doing that? Like, it's hitting downhill here. Like, Jones isn't gonna be able to do that play.
I thought maybe is he trying to like leverage him, like fling himself front side, like trying to get momentum or something, like, you know what I mean, on the actual block
maybe
itself.
Yeah. But I just, so guys, why this would be a problem like here is if you're saying that this is the A gap, this is the B gap, this is a gap, and this is a gap, then your deep third corner, so the guy responsible for any of these guys into this area of the field, is also simultaneously tasked with showing up here or here. You are saying this guy is ultimately, you know, if the back goes like this, he's going to be the underneath player. But you are wasting that by how you're basically putting this guy in a real tough spot. So not an issue on this play. The issue is the technique up front, which is a whole other problem. But that's the reason they're playing the front like that is I believe, so this guy isn't relied upon in the run defense, but I guess it gives him the time to read this out, Griff, like read the release of the back, but it is, as we'll see, quite costly for the rest of the run defense. So let's go to an example of how it was a problem. So this is a 2nd and 7. So here's Love again from deep, which is fine. You can play cover 3 from a too high look. And he does actually make the tackle.
It goes. This is an example where something that could have been killed at the line of scrimmage goes for 3 yards. And so, yeah, let's pause the picture here. Who has what gap? If we start like right to left even.
Okay, so B gap, C gap.
Then like who does Love have? Because Love is spinning down. Love's in the fit. So what's his gap? Is it the front side A then? Or the weak side A? And then Dodson, who's aligned to the A gap, where does he have to go? You almost wonder, are they trying to throw off the mic point?
I think. And then
he's like, do they want them to point like on a run to the, I don't know.
I think it's an intentional angles thing, and there's a play which we'll get to. Well, let's play this through.
The issue here though is Murphy ends up, he's one gapping, but he plays because it's a one gap technique, a power step. But he still has a secondary gap. And this is where I have questions about what is the emphasis for primary, secondary. He works into the A gap, his secondary right there. And in doing so, that allows the ball to kind of squirt back out on him front side. And then he also loses depth. He loses ground in doing that by working back. Instead of just being able to hold his B gap right there and then let the A gap get plugged by should be Love. So like they can't get negative plays. They can't get TFLs or a -1 because of stuff like this. And
when you can't get negative plays, what's this? 2nd and 7. This is now creating a 3rd and 3, and but imagine it on 1st down. It's now a 2nd and 6.
Right. Also, the whole concept of crack replace. They're cracking the widest, the exterior second level player. So by cracking Love, that would technically make the corner Woolen the A gap player. You want your corner having to then play an A gap. They get lucky here, but there's some plays where it hurts them.
Yeah,
it's the scheme turning what should be 0 yards into 3 yards.
Let's get to them. Part of this as well, I think, is they don't want Julian Love to play in an A gap. Like they don't believe, or they're trying to help their safeties out. But like at certain times, if you're going to play cover 3, it's okay to do that. In my opinion. So this is a really good run concept, but the whole play is just weird to me. So they're playing the same deal where I believe this is the cover 3 side. I think that's right. And then in cover 3, right, your coverage takes you to your run fit. So Julian Love's coverage, we've said it's about, maybe hook exchanging, but imagine he is just the flat defender, right? Ignore the hook exchange we talked about, the cover 3 site. So his defender would be the number 2, okay? So the number 2 here is this guy, right? If he's the immediate threat, he's this guy. Now who's the number 2? Oh, it's this guy. So he rotates down. That's like the fast action for that exchange. So this is his number 2. Here's the number 1 for Woolen. So he is no longer in the run fit because this guy is coming out and that's his number 2. After that motion, if he's no longer being asked to fit the run, how most teams would do this in cover 3 would be, and let's go to the this angle here. Dodson bumps out, so Dodson would be the B gap.
Mm-hmm.
Where's his number hook curl defenders? They relate to their number 2. His number 2's coming out, but they're inside on the 2, and they have to be cognizant of the 3. So he would bump his gap along. He was the A gap. He's now the B gap. And Ernest Jones, if we go back... Oh, they do a lot of motion here, huh? Ernest Jones, it doesn't... Really, it would be A gap, B gap, right? This is an overfront. I hadn't realized that. And then Jones playing here or here, depending on what this edge does, right?
Right.
Jones, after this motion, it should be C gap, D gap, A gap, B gap, edge. I'm not in the fit because my number 2's here.
Mm-hmm.
And B gap, A gap. We're gapped out. We can cover 3. We have the extra guy in the box. We have a corner here who can play the force if it goes out that way. But Jones doesn't move his alignment one bit with that motion. He walks with the motion this way. And then watch the relationship between Jones and Robertson Harris. That's Williams 3 technique.
Right.
Williams plays really thick into this gap.
And they have a pin and fold adjustment there as well. So Jones is completely out of it. The ball could have cut up the middle, and it doesn't. It hits the B gap because that combo on Murphy is just so devastating. But the running back, Cook, has a lot of options here.
Yeah, I think
what I
he
don't
has a
understand,
touchdown
though,
down.
is, well, why does Dodds... So Dodson's okay at first. He's getting front side leverage on the guard. He even tries
Why
to,
does he...
Why
that
does
is
he
awful.
Well, okay, but even so, why does he peek in at the last second?
Yeah, like, is that primary, secondary gap? But, like, there's no help into that outside, you know?
I don't get it. I don't get it.
But here, I just don't understand why, with this motion, Jones didn't take a step here to then have leverage on the running back. Because shotgun, running back most of the time is going to cross the face of the quarterback. And also, you want leverage on, use your 3 technique to help you keep you clean and have leverage on the tackle if, he pulls. Like, there's no way Jones is dead by his alignment at the snap. I think this is the player picked by the thumbnail, but I don't understand why, your coverage takes you to the run fit. This is now your new threat. Why are we not just taking a couple of steps here to have leverage on the running back and leverage on a potential something like this and be kept clean by this and then be able to vision this through to this and your triangle? I don't... And there's something to be said for Jones being new to the defense too.
Right.
I don't know how much of... I think what we saw was more... it was deeper than just Jones being new to the defense. But... and we'll get to those plays. We'll keep getting to them. So here... This play I put as a description after it. The type of play to make you give up on the run defense. So let's play this through. So it's a 2nd and 6. It is in a 2-minute drill period. But this is insane. So they're just playing straight up cover 1, but from a too high presentation. So man-to-man, man-to-man, man-to-man. Running back, we're 2-on-1 on the running back. This is the post safety, and we're man-to-man over here. So cover 1, it's like cover 3. We have the extra guy to come into the box. We have that safety coming down, as Kobe Bryant does. All of this crap with the attached routes, that's fine, because basically none of these guys are relevant anymore. That's our defender, etc., etc. So in the box, we should be able to play one guy for each gap. We should be able to play with that. So we should be edge, C gap, E gap, force, B gap, A gap, B gap. Excuse me? Is this the A gap? Yes. So who plays the A gap? Jones, right? But look at his leverage. I mean, he's clearly cheating for the wheel and maybe being rubbed by this, but he is asking a hell of a long of a way to get he's got to beat the back to this part here. He's out leveraged, and like we said, shotgun. Where's the running back? Especially look at the back split. He's not running a wheel. He's too tight to the quarterback, and if he's tight to the quarterback, it's likely to be like a tight inside zone type path. And yeah,
ball rolls out the front. And Hankins is keen to it, kind of. Hankins is trying to play.
Yeah. You end up basically with Hankins playing into where Jones should have been, right? Jones is here. Dodson playing into where Hankins was, and then so it just rolls out the B gap. And Jones makes the play eventually, along with Roberts and Harris from the backside. But this is like, so you're just giving them yards.
So you say sound defense. Like, this doesn't feel very sound. Like, it doesn't feel like it gives the defenders much of a chance to defend this for real.
It's also, Macdonald doesn't want to play cover one that much, I don't believe. Like, he's described cover one as a tool for populating the line of scrimmage to stop the run.
Interesting, yeah.
But this is not stopping the run. This is giving the run up still. I know it's a 2-minute drill at the end of the half, but it is... If Ernest Jones lined up here, or even head up on the back here, this is a much... And everyone just plays one gap. I mean, Dodson takes this leverage on, again, very weird. Look.
See, the thing for me is like... Well, I don't think they want to do that because of the option game, but like this is where a pirate stunt would do them a lot of good. Because Jones wants to be that over there anyway, right?
For the man, yeah.
But...
Or even just a 3-tech spike.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Like exchange, like a lot of their double rotation stuff for the 3 technique is kind of playing like a slow like 2 gap on it. That's where like a gap exchange would just speed that relationship up, where you just spike cross face really fast. But
right. So this is a 1st and 10. Jason, I just drew a pirate stunt up, but if you search our Twitter, it's on there. But 3-tech can end spiking a gap over inside to spill the ball outside or to push someone to gap outside so that they can align wider, make the ball hit faster and to the outside where you have a guy. So this here, Griff, is is it a pressure? Yeah, no, I don't know. It's weird. So it's an under front again, under G front. So there's our G nose playing on the guard. Here's our 3 technique away from that big tight end who's 6th offensive lineman. We have a fullback in the picture. So it's like big 21 personnel, screaming run. And we have... hold on. A really heavy looking formation, right?
Yeah. Anything to the strong side, I don't understand how what Love is doing serves the defense at all.
Well, I guess it's just for the boot, right? They're just playing for the boot, but they end up with these 2 guys in the same gap. Like, would we not do this?
But my question is the ball in the middle of the field, or it's on the boundary?
Yeah.
You would do that sort of thing. You do that sort of thing to the field,
right?
Where you have 2 edge defenders. They did a lot of that early in the season, but it was always to the field,
right,
to the wide side of the field.
I guess this isn't double rotation.
Well, it kind of
is.
I mean, yeah, it is.
Yeah, basically, guys, Pete Carroll's defense was essentially set up where they would rotate the safety to the 3 techniques so often, and so double rotation, so to speak, and they would have to accommodate that, they would bump the other second level defenders over so that they were sound. And it was a very effective measure because, one, it protected the safety type with a 3 technique a lot of the time. And you could do lots of things off that. Or Griff, you were going to say?
Well, I was just going to say if it was like if it was an over front and you rotated to the tight end side with the 3 technique, they would reduce
the edge.
They would reduce the edge to make that safety the edge, the force player,
right.
To relieve that.
And so
you have a gap.
Double rotation is a concept we first ran into with a great clinic from Kyle Kogan, who is currently a defensive analyst at the University of Oregon, but has been a high school coach, right, Griff? High school defensive coordinator, and has done loads of very good run fit clinics as like, hey, double rotation is something you want to avoid because it can cause you a lot of issues if you don't do how Seattle did it. Basically, that's my words there. And we never really sort of understood the full kind of magnitude of the problem or like what it asks of defenders, because essentially what's happening here is Maffei's having to take out this block, and then they kind of run it down from the backside. I mean, Jones is sealed because he's not bumped out as much. Dodson's just unblocked to the play. And why would they do it? Well, it prevents, what teams like to do where they run the zone and run it back across and you've over pursued. It prevents over pursuit because you're already got the one too many numbers backside, you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
This is maddening. This is so bad.
It's horrible, man.
So again, it's that same cover 3 type look where they spin out. This time, Jones bumps.
It's the 2-eye middle linebacker relationship screwing them up.
It honestly gives me a headache.
Just have them play a 1 technique, man.
So really, this should be. There's my number 2, A gap, B gap, right?
Yep.
Like in a logical way where we can all play.
Just win on your aligned
our
leverage.
Gaps.
Just win on play half man, win on your aligned leverage. But so now you've got Hankins working backside. Again, before the running back has declared, the running back is still to his primary gap. So I don't know why Hankins would be working back at all. But then, so he works back and then he tries to get front side again.
Dodson just gets blocked out the play, which again, if you're not going to keep your linebacker clean, that can happen.
I mean, that's fine though, because it's still
you're missing your backside A gap player basically.
Yeah,
that's such a similar play to what we've just seen.
Also, I don't understand. Jones is trying to fit off of Hankins. So if he sees Hankins going backwards, why wouldn't Jones jet front side?
Yeah,
I think he's just worried about not wanting to get washed down from the tackle.
Yeah.
Or is that the guard? I'm not sure. I think it was the tackle. Anyway, it's just strange to me, dude. It's all very weird.
You maybe think... Yeah, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Well, chat, you may be thinking, well, hang on a second. We haven't actually seen, they've aligned pretty good here. I think that's a fair point. That's an okay alignment. Stacking the guy, he can play as B. We'd love to see that happen, but it's not an alignment issue, and they've adjusted out well. That's correct. So you may be thinking, why are we banging on about the double rotation thing so much? Well, this is the play which really made it all click for me. So this is a 1st and 10. Right, so here they've kind of given up on showing the 2 high, I guess because it's 1st down as well and a heavy run look. What have we got here?
What gap is Love supposed to? I mean, Love would technically be the A-gap player if this was a run.
And what did I tell you guys? Your coverage takes you to your run fit. Love's number 2 is a dot in the backfield. If he was in the A-gap, it would make it difficult to get outside, kind of. But not really. Let's just cycle through. If Love was required to play the flat to the boundary, he'd have a bit of a way to go out there. But ultimately, he'd have this A-gap. So it's an easier task than having to fit this A-gap. So it's not terrible. Dodson, who's his threat? It's the final 3, right? Because if you... And this is a lineman, so they're not really going to release downfield, most likely. But ultimately, his threat is stuff down here on the opposite hash. So, but, eyes for that. You can roll back over with that. But who is the threat to this guy? Well, it's the number 2 receiver. But we've lined Ernest Jones up super, super tight, and it's to the field side. And they're actually running, and this could be a bust as well, but I let's just talk about the alignment. They're actually running a fire zone, so I really need to be aware of number 2, because we're blitzing here, we're bringing 5, and this guy is my threat. I have to play the seam of that.
Oh, I remember this play now.
And so being double rotated here means I have to go.
The spacing throws off
the way here.
Player this time. And then also, I don't understand the leverage the corners play with. They align like. Why is Witherspoon playing inside and on top against a tight split?
I've no idea.
It doesn't make any sense because of the divider leverage. Then also he can't get vision on the number 2, so your corners are providing no seam help. And in cover 3, whether it's
I guess because
whether it's drop 7 or a fire zone, you have to be able to have eyes on the seam.
Yeah.
So it's just very bad coverage. It's just bad.
So again, chat, to sum it up, 3 technique, we've rotated down to that side. To make that work in run defense perspective, what we would need to do with how the formation is aligned is bump everyone a gap over. So if we go to the end zone copy, we would bump here, we'd play here, we would bump here, we'd play here, we would bump here, probably could just stack this guy and we'd play here. And every single guy could have a gap, and what's so nice about playing like that is our coverage threat is closer to us. Our coverage and our run fit and our alignment suits both aspects.
This is another example where a pirate would make so much sense for the safety.
Well, Pirates. Yeah, but this is nonsense because
I know that. I mean, that is too. But I'm just thinking about like a if this was a weak side zone run, that ball's cutting back on the backside C gap.
Yeah. And I don't know if Jones knew that they were blitzing here. I think he thought they were dropping here. But even if that were the case, his alignment is bad. Like, he would need to be here to hold off the seam for the corner. And, Spoon's technique is not playing this. So, yeah, it's trash. So that's where I think I disagree with Macdonald. And I guess the reasons why, we've sort of summed them up, but it's because they were hook exchanging these 2 guys a bit, I think. I think it's because they don't want Julian Love having to play in an A-gap, even though it's less intimidating, I'd argue. In these situations, they also, wanted to play the 2-eye, so they maybe wanted to protect for, because they had the 6OL stuff, and they wanted to be strong to that strong side to prevent that from happening. But and as I said on Twitter, but this is our scheme opinion that is obviously informed, by previous defenses and what we've watched around the league and on other defenses. And it's like a chess player. Like, there's different openings, there's different ways to skin a cat. At the same time, playing single high like this, I think you can argue is not sound from a run defense perspective or as consistently sound. And, in terms of that chess analogy, like, Macdonald's ELO is way higher than us. He's in a different stratosphere. That's why he's an NFL coach. We're just some guys with a podcast. Yeah. But, this doesn't really make sense. And I was troubled by the comments from Adam Dirty, the defensive coordinator, on Wednesday, where he said this and this, and we've referenced it, but he said it's your primary gap to your secondary gap, it's your understanding of play to gap, and then the ball flows and takes you to that gap. There's a timing of a play, so like when you're holding your gap, late gap and a half, or late roll back to your secondary gap. The late roll back to your secondary gap is talking about the second level, of course, the linebackers. Those things come up and you keep teaching and talking through. Well, you don't need to play like that when you have that extra guy in the box and you're in cover 3 or cover 1. That's only, and not even a necessity, but one method for doing it when you're down a man in the box. But anyway, it's yeah. Now, the disadvantage, Griff, would be the opening play, where here Jones is bumped out a bit more, and I wondered if this influenced their in-game plan. You still have Love. I think they pressure off the edge here, right? And really the problem is, but Jones here's leverage is tough as the middle hook player. He's beat across his face. But I do think he thought Dodson was going to drop into that window.
Yeah, with it being a fire zone. I mean, that's a very tricky thing. The underneath coverage in fire zones, they screw up their how they play different pattern distributions all the time. It becomes a who has the number 3 thing. I mean, it's got to be Jones.
Yeah. But
you chalk that up to, does he have a match assignment, or was he supposed to spot drop to it?
Yeah, because he plays spot drop, whereas Dodson plays more like.
But
he's just too aggressive.
Right, but he plays a strong hook spot drop.
Yeah. It's not drop. Surely you'd spot drop middle.
When you've got 3 underneath guys, you have to play.
Especially versus tight spacing, right?
Yeah.
They're down the pipe already.
So it's definitely just a bad rep for Jones.
Yeah. But I wondered if this was why he tightened up more. I don't know.
Could be.
All right, so there's some other alignment things along with the theory of double rotation. I don't know how long you've got, Griff.
Okay, I can go for 15, 20 more minutes, probably.
Cool. Right. So, is this a movement? They're slanting into...
Yeah.
Are they pressuring? Yeah. So, this is just bad edge play again from Harris. He gets past set. He needs to be going here with Love off the edge. They end up with 2 guys in the same gap.
Love kind of correct, or Robertson does, but then Dodson is lost on his pass key initially.
Yeah. This is eyes. I don't know why he thinks pass. I don't know what he's keying, which gives him pass here. Maybe the pass set of that guard.
Probably. It just tricks him.
Yep. And then that's that.
That's that. The Bills are tricky on the edge, man, with their blocking, run blocking, and pass blocking in play action.
What did I say about this one? Oh, yeah, this was kind of crazy to me, Griff. Kind of that point about them wanting the number backside. It's crazy Dodson didn't try and cross-face here. I guess he just blocked.
Incredible play by Ernest Jones here, though.
Yeah.
We
might be able to... I have to tweet out a compilation of Jones, I think, because I don't know if I've got time. But I thought he had... I know we've seen some rough, structural things, which I don't necessarily put on him. But I thought he had a really promising first game. He did skill
set wise, trait wise, he's so far ahead of Baker and Dodson.
Everything is advertised, right?
Right. So the tools are there. So as he gels more with the defense, the players and the scheme, even though the scheme is similar to what he did in Tennessee, still that will help. That will be a big boost still.
I thought Maffei here on the edge, Macdonald would probably want a slightly different way of playing that.
There's another thing on the front side where they're trying to rip through, but it ends up making it a lot harder on the B-gap player when they do that, which is Reed. Yeah. And Reed ends up he doesn't even get reached. He just can't make the tackle because he doesn't have anyone to shrink the running back's path down with because Maffei gets so upfield. Dodson is okay here. Dodson's doing his job. He's the A-gap player, so.
Right, this is another alignment thing from the linebacker. So it's another Ernest Jones thing where I don't get it.
Oh, this one, man. I can't comprehend how this is supposed to.
It's like the same concept that we saw though, like the fold or the pull with the.
Right, which is an awesome. I love that adjustment of they're running mid zone here from gun, mid-weak zone, or is it just inside zone?
I think just inside zone with the pull.
Okay, so inside zone with a pin fold adjustment. The reason why this fold works is because of Jones's initial leverage.
Yeah, it's the linebacker. I don't know how you can say in good faith that in the way that we're taking the alignment question to be that this is a sound alignment.
Unless they think it's going to be pure zone and he can, if the guard releases immediately for Jones, then Murphy can just play down the line, then maybe.
I wondered if they were trying to make this A-gap get really clean by aligning like this to just get a run through, make the line forget about it.
I don't know, but
yeah, it's kind of wild.
I mean, he should be able to. Even still, he still should be able to work. But they don't let them speed rip. They make them stack and shed.
Yeah, if he had just speed ripped the shoulder here just to make that happen.
Right. Yeah, so that's the other thing. When you pull guys, two guys have to move. It's tough for Wallace to get all the way over there.
But yeah, it should be really, it becomes a two-back run for these two guys, and it should be turn back and then, right?
I mean, anyway. Maybe this isn't as bad. This is probably if it goes for 5 yards in the fall forward if Hankins doesn't if Hankins doesn't buckle. But are they in man, do you think?
I had this down as with how they rotate. I think it's cover 3 again with the same thing going on.
Don't understand.
But they switched in the game because under was such a catastrophe. And under is not a big deal for them, but they switched in game to playing over. So now this is an over front, and rotation-wise, they wouldn't be double rotated. There's the 3-tech. The linebackers have the A and the, off this guy, but they're rotating to the B-gap bubble, and post-motion, this is what I don't get. Post-motion, safety comes down, Dodson plays B, I'm in the A. They literally don't double, they bump over with the... So they know how to do it. It's just in under, it was patchy. Yeah. Or they just intentionally weren't doing it, which... But yeah, anyway, they should have enough people here. This Jones is if you look at it from the Bills camera angle, you can see Jones his leverage is not there for. And yeah, why so thick? Yeah.
Why so thick, Matty?
And the 2-eye nose here, just like giving the leverage to the center.
How so by that? What do you mean by that?
Well, like the center knows I need to get this guy over here, right? But he's already aligned over there, so it's just. And this guy's in a B. So these guys basically are very easy for the center.
I think inside zone against a 2-eye makes a lot more sense for the offense than wide zone or mid zone.
Yeah, like look at the A gap now. And we're putting someone through it.
Yeah, I don't know why pin and fold isn't more popular, to be honest with you.
Yeah, it's kind of killer, right?
Like pin pull is more common, which is an outside zone thing. But pin and fold is just, I don't know. It always works. I've never seen it not work, to be honest. At least in terms of achieving what you're trying to do on the blocking scheme, on the front structure, I mean.
Yeah. Oh, this is bad. Why are we playing a 2-eye like this? Were they so scared of duo? Like, why is he head up? Such a mess. And why is Jones head up on the tackle?
Well, where ought he to be?
So bad.
Oh, you mean like more into the B gap?
Yeah, like.
You mean more into the B gap?
Yeah, like. Look where it hits. Again, guys, they're gapped out here. So B, or they should be, edge, A, B, C, or D, C, or D. They have the bodies. They're playing man coverage to try populate the line of scrimmage, which implies, hat on a hat, gap in a gap. Look at that.
Yeah, Jones. So Murphy gets washed, and then Jones can't get front side in time.
So bad. Like this is playing like you're in too high defense and you don't have the numbers. Or something. I don't know what it is, but anyway.
Yeah, yucky.
Yeah. All right. Should we? I don't know. We could go for ages, but
what sucks is I would love to see. I mean, Murphy can 2-gap like he did it in college, right? And a lot of this is he's just a rookie. It's about reaction time as much as athleticism, processing, and everything. Just NFL game is so much faster, right? Mentally, and he'll catch up. But like I want to see him 1-gap, like for real, like 1-gap for real.
Right.
He's so explosive. I mean, he's Puna forward with the sliders turned all the way up. Like I want to see that, but we don't get to see it right now because they're having him do all this workhorse stuff, and he can't handle it at the moment.
Right. So then, very late in the game, like Mitch Trubisky at quarterback, here they are playing an over front with the 3 technique playing a 4-eye because of the 3-man surface, which is a choice. Makes sense in a way to stop duo and keep this guy clean to flow if it goes like this. But they're playing the safety down, and they have a guy for every gap. Maffei's off the ball. I think, they're in base. Like, it technically is rock laser, where this guy walks off the ball if these guys are here. Anyway, B gap, A gap, A gap, B gap, C gap, D gap, force. Or this is the exact same run concept, different quarterback, probably a different running back as well. But exact same run concept, and it's not great. Like it's not the best execution, but they stop the run for a yard because everyone eventually gets in their gap. Like,
look at Hankins though. Like I still think that's unsustainable because we saw him doing what he's doing right now. We saw that not work 100 times. And now it works this time.
Yeah.
It really feels like it's like it's like do what you want when it comes to what gap you're actually playing. Like it's like they're vibing. Like it's just all feel. And like good, smart players can play that way, but it feels very high variance.
Well, and it requires so much like chemistry and understanding of your teammate. And I think when you're doing it in too high defense, if you get it slightly wrong, there's always going to be a safety coming from deep who's like read past the run and cleans it up, and you leverage the ball with the two safeties. Or if it goes out to the edge, there's a safety running the alley to clean it up. But when you're in one high and you get it wrong, like it's off the shelf and it's like a safety from the post trying to come
Ironically, getting reached in one high is worse, even though we've got more guys than getting reached in too high. It's kind of like a floor versus ceiling conversation.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Right. We could go for ages on the tape, and there's some positives that we didn't really get to, which, hopefully they play a better game. I'm sure these are issues they're aware of, and again, like, you know, we're not saying we know more than Mike Macdonald here. We're trying to understand his defense, his way of thinking, and I think, it's just going to be so interesting to see if this continues, how, you know, those changes he referenced with Jones coming into the picture play out. But I am a bit concerned. Like, we've seen similar, something to liken this to is Vic Fangio. Like, when they tried to install the Vic Fangio stuff and they were doing this gap and half stuff when they were in one high defense, it was similarly bad. And they struggled with the two high stuff too.
Right.
Anyway. Right, so Rams, Griff, real quick. Week 9 against the Rams. Massive game. Team's 4-4 now. Like, this is NFC West lead on the line. It's kind of up in the air because DK Metcalf's ruled out, which that's not great. We saw the offense without him. Struggled. The Rams might be without Puka Nacua, which would be a massive shame from like a quality of offense-faced perspective and just spectacle, but would really help the Seahawks defense because I think he is now the guy. Like, Cooper Kupp's still great, but Puka's kind of the guy for them.
Right.
I mean, what are your thoughts on this game? I think McVay, in my eyes, he has all the calls for Seattle, but he's just obviously way more confident when Puka's out there, and if he can't go, it's a big thing. I think he said 70%, 80% chance.
I think he'll be out there. I mean, I don't feel good about the game. I don't feel good about the matchup at all. What I'm looking for is how much of a dent can they put into the run defense? How much can they improve? Can they clean up a lot of the stuff that in theory is really easy to clean up with maybe simplifying the primary, secondary coaching points, the emphasis, just to make it easier for the second level to read out what they need to do. If they can improve that, how much does that improve? By what percentage does the run defense improve? That's what I'm looking for. Then on the other side, improving the edge play, the edge technique they play with, just improving that. What does that do? Like, how much does that make? You know what I mean? So the double rotation things, I think that's just something they're going to have to live with. I don't think Macdonald's changing that. I would like to see more run stunts and gap exchanges to offset those alignment disadvantages. That's where, like, when every defensive call is going to yield something on paper. So that picture that you present pre-snap, that's what those supplementary calls, those alleviating calls are for. The other thing I'll be looking at schematically is does Macdonald introduce more alleviating calls, supplementary calls. Offensively, I mean, the Rams don't have a good defense. I want to see Geno throw for 300 yards. I want to see two, 3 touchdowns. I mean, they got to have a good game, man. Otherwise, this just isn't a good offense. Even without DK, like, you can't call yourself a good offense if you can't score 25 real points this game against the Rams. So
you're thinking the Seahawks have 25 points?
My prediction score is going to be 33-26 Rams.
33? Wow. I think the Rams win 28-20.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Well, we'll see. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. I look forward to it. It's a real test for them. Thank you, chat, for joining us. I think we kind of answered all of your questions during the show. Yeah, But thank you for them. Sometimes we won't be able to answer questions necessarily, but I read them all. We read them all, and it tries to guide what we're going to talk about. So I massively appreciate you all tuning in. Good to see, like I said, some names I haven't seen in a while, and then obviously the usual overloaders as well. So please follow Griff at CMike's Spin Move. Follow me at Matty F Brown. Follow the pod at Seattle Overload. We'll be live after Sunday's game, after the press conferences with a reaction. Losing like another game would be pretty interesting. So
I think if you lose this game, you're not winning 10 games this year, and if you're not winning 10 games, you're not getting into the wild card. So
man, yeah, that would be rough. I feel like we've missed so much. Let us know, what do you think of the show? Let us know in the comments. Like the video, please. Subscribe to the Seattle Overload channel if you haven't. And we'll be back soon. Griff, closing wisdom?
No, not really.